Hello, everyone. Welcome to session 1 of the webinar series, RFID for Local Governments, sponsored by Impinj and Hana Technologies. I'm Martha Mallon, Senior Director of Global Partner Marketing for Impinj. And together with Hana, we're excited to host a great lineup of Impinj partners each month for the next 6 months to help you build your understanding of RFID technology and how it can improve the efficiency of government operations. Today's featured partner is RFID for You. RFID for You is a global solutions provider of RFID, IoT, and mobility solutions. And as part of the company's offerings, it provides customers business intelligence leveraging its software Tagmatics, a next generation RFID software platform for data collection. Going the wrong way there. Today's presenters will be Paul Brown, Vice President of Sales for Hana Technologies, Archit Dua, Senior Director, Strategic Accounts for RFID for You, and Joe Gomillion, Senior Sales Director for Impinj. To help start today's session, we'd like to do a couple of quick polls so we can learn a little bit more about the audience. So first, we'll start with quick demographic questions. We realize that where you are, what size of organization that you have, and the things that you do and focus on will be vastly different. So helping us to understand who you are will help us a lot in answering your questions and preparing some questions for you. So we'll just give you another 10, 15 seconds to complete the quick poll, and then we'll share the results with you. Last chance. We appreciate you participating in any polls. So how does that look? You ready to share results? Great, lots of local government, wonderful to see. And a few from academia, we really appreciate it. All right, so we'll close this poll and we'll go on to our next one. We'd like to know how your organization tracks assets today. So let us know if you don't track your assets at all. You do it manually or on Excel spreadsheet or just memory, whether you're using barcode technology today, another automated technology, or you're using UHF or RAIN RFID today. So this one's a quick one. So your answers again would be greatly appreciated. All right, what do the results look like there? Excel. So you guys are going to learn a lot today, and I'm really excited to see that there's some variation in people's level of understanding. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So today's agenda will start with Joe Gomillion. He will talk about the RFID technology basics and tell you a little bit more about Impinj. Next, we'll have Paul Brown to talk about the RFID tagging for effective asset tracking. He'll share some brief insights on the importance of tagging in asset management solutions. And then we'll have our featured speaker, Archit Dua, who will dive deeper into asset tracking applications and how organizations use Tagmatics software to manage their RFID data. And lastly, we'll be having a moderated panel discussion with Q&A. But please submit your questions at any time during the session. We'll be answering some of those in the chat, but we love to bring some good and insightful questions to get some insights from our panel of experts at the end. So without further delay, I'm going to hand this over to Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hey there, Martha. How are you?
Great.
Wanted to thank everybody for joining. Appreciate it very much. Hope you're having a good day so far. My name is Joe Gomillion. I'm the Senior Director for IC Sales for the Americas at Impinj. I want to talk a little bit about what is RAIN RFID. You can see here that ultimately RAIN is radio identification, RAIN RFID. It's basically a passive wireless system that's able to connect billions of tags every day through the internet. So some of the features that we kind of talk about when RAIN is deployed is the fact that it's a low-cost system that oftentimes is easy to implement. It's a very fast system. And what makes it fast is, you don't really need necessarily a line of sight. It becomes a very autonomous technology, and then it's battery free. So this helps obviously with the cost and almost gives you essentially unlimited life. I like to be careful when saying that because lots of things cause disruptions with RFID, but it also has a worldwide spectrum of standards and ecosystems. So this is a global initiative, and the technology is deployed globally throughout the world. Martha? So here we're going to talk a little bit about how Impinj enables RFID asset management tracking. So solutions are built by Impinj on our platform by many partners. And what we're trying to illustrate here is that it often starts with tagging the asset. There's a ton of solutions out there for different types of tagging different types of assets. And then once you've got that asset tagged, you need to be able to read the tag. Remember, again, this is a battery free item or tag. So there's you need to be able to set up some type of portal or ability to read the assets. And then there's a software system in the background that allows you to track that asset throughout either the supply chain or the location that it's sitting in. Martha? Moving a little slow. So how Impinj, let's get there. So here we go, yes. Empowering operational agility with RAIN RFID. What we're illustrating here is that there's a ton of flexibility within an RFID deployment system. So with RAIN, you can definitely move tags or tagged items through all different types of processes and keep track of the item. So this could include a conveyor system, for example. It could include backing trucks up to a portal and connecting these goods and moving them through the supply chain and be able to see where those items are located. And then obviously keep track of the inventory for all those different items that are tagged. So what we really want to do is be able to enable that identification with a unique ID number, see how it's moving through your supply chain or through your location, and then be able to manage that asset more effectively. So our mission is to connect everything, and we mean it, everything. Our goal is to tag and track everything. I know that sounds crazy, but today we're probably tracking over 40-something billion items, 45+ billion items annually with the technology today. So this is a very robust technology, massively deployed. And how we do that, as we've been talking about, we use tag chips at the tag level. This is what Impinj delivers to many of our partners in the ecosystem. And then also reader chips, what we call reader chips. Those are ICs that basically go into different types of devices that you can use to track the items. It could be a fixed reader, say a portal, a reader that's mounted on a dock door, for example. It could be a handheld device or even a slide that you can slide your cell phone into to be able to do inventory tracking. You can see there, we talked about readers and gateways. These are the actual readers that we deploy there. And then all of this ties into software and services to be able to use actionable data from tracking and gathering the data that you need to track those assets. Now, I love this slide because it speaks to the heart of my experience with the technology. I'm super passionate about this and been in this industry for about 20 years. And I've probably worked through most of the different processes that it takes to deliver the technology. So wafer fabrication here, we're talking about the IC level itself. That's what we do here at Impinj. We design all the different types of ICs that we were just talking about into either devices, tags, all throughout the ecosystem. What we'll do here in just a minute, I'll introduce Paul Brown with Hana. He's at the inlay manufacturing and converting levels. They'll take our product and technology, convert that into a functioning operating tag or label, and then either sell that through another partner where you actually do the printing, what we call printing and encoding of the process. That's where you make the item or tag with the unique ID number. So you give it its own personal identification. And then obviously we need software partners like RFID for You, where when they go to the end users, they're able to do a deployment, use that software to gather actionable, meaningful data so that your organization can make real decisions on how to manage those assets properly. And lastly, how do we do that? We enable our Impinj partner network. We've got over 2,000 partners globally. We work very closely with them, and that includes tag OEM providers, device manufacturers, as solution resellers. There's so many different types of use cases that get enabled and deployed, and it's just wonderful to work with so many incredible partners out there to help us do that. To date, we've delivered over 100 billion. This is just Impinj. So obviously, if we're doing 40 billion something plus a year, but Impinj has been instrumental in delivering over 100 billion units, which we're very proud of. And then also 4 million readers. So think about every place where you want to be able to read that tag as it moves to the supply chain. You've got a device there, you're creating a portal, and you're keeping track of those items as they move through that. And that means we need a lot of reader read points. And that's where we've also excelled in delivering and enabling the supply chain to be tracked globally. So it's an incredible technology. It's massively powerful, especially once you learn how to harness that technology.
Wonderful. And that's why we're here today. So our next speaker is going to be Paul Brown from Hana. Paul, will you join us on stage? Wonderful. I am going to stop sharing and transition to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe and Martha, and thank you all for joining today. Appreciate, I know everybody's got busy schedules and appreciate you taking the time. So I'm going to give you a little background of who Hana is, and then get into more about the inlays and what we're doing in the RFID side of things. So the company was founded in 1978, so we've got almost 50 years of high-tech manufacturing experience. We have 7 global manufacturing locations across major continents. We have over 1 million square feet of high-tech manufacturing space, and we're roughly about a $700 million business in sales. So I'm actually part of Hana Technologies, which is part of the Hana Microelectronics Group. We are a global provider of RFID products, microelectronics manufacturing services, and we're located in Solon, Ohio. That's a southeast suburb of Cleveland. If you're familiar with Cleveland, Ohio, we're the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which you see there in the background. So just to give you a little bit of history, the company was actually started in 1978. That's when it was founded. We actually started into the RFID business back in 1992. So we've been in this business quite a long time. Actually, the Hana Group took over Hana Technologies in August of 1999. And then we started in the US doing RFID in 2004. And we started getting high volume roll-to-roll inlay manufacturing capability within the US. And we've continued to expand that capability and capacity in the US, as well as we've just recently in 2022 expanded that into our sister facility in China as well. And then here just recently in 2023, we moved from Twinsburg, Ohio into a new plant in Solon. So a lot of exciting things happen. Quality is one of those things a lot of people talk about. It is one of the things within the Hana Group that we really drive from the top on down. All our factories are ISO certified. Most of the facilities are also automotive and medical certified as well with the ISO 9001. Our facility in Ohio is ISO 9001, and we have been since 2001. We are also ARC quality certified, and that happened in 2022, and that was done by the Auburn University RFID lab. And then also in 22, we received the sustainability ranking of bronze with EcoVadis. So quality is, like I said, driven from the top down within our organization and very important. So now I'll talk about a little bit of the history with RFID. We have over 30 years of global manufacturing and design of RFID tags, inlays, and hardware. We have 192 Auburn listings on 11 certified tags in 21 categories. And we also have tagged billions of items, as Joe mentioned, how many they're involved with. One of the other things that we do within the RFID technology is an embeddable RFID tire tag. And we have over 100, we're in over 150 million tires equipped with that technology and have approximately covered 75 trillion miles without a single failure. So that's what we're talking about when you talk about the Hana organization and quality. That says it right there. We are the global #1 embeddable RFID tire manufacturer in the world, and we've been doing that since 2005. We are certified and approved by most major tire manufacturers, primarily in truck tires, and then we're also in off-road tires as well as racing tires. So every Goodyear, or sorry, every NASCAR race has Goodyear tire tags in there that we are manufacturing. So now I'll get into our global RFID portfolio just to give you a little better idea of what we're doing. We are manufacturing the RAIN RFID inlays, like Joe mentioned before. So basically, we are taking the Impinj IC chip and we are attaching that to PET material in volume and high quality. We're also, as I just mentioned, do the embeddable tire tags, and that also includes sensing technology. So not only can it read and ID the tire, it also can tell us temperature as well as pressure. And we're also in access cards and readers as well, primarily for security and to get in and out of your buildings. So on the inlay side, we are included in all the major retail playbooks. We're one of 9 certified suppliers listed by the ARC RFID Lab for meeting the highest quality and manufacturing standards in the industry. And those playbooks include, Walmart, Dillard's, Macy's, Nordstrom. So you guys are probably buying products every day that and contain an inlay of Hana's and a chip from Impinj. On the inlay portfolio, as you can see, we have a number of different sizes and performance requirements. So I'm not going to go into the details here. A lot of these are also ARC certified. You can find more information on our website at hanarfid.com, and we'll provide that link to you later. So the benefits of a connected future and how RFID will make a difference. Everybody wants to know where their assets are because to everybody, assets is money, and you want to know where those are. So we want to track where those are moving around and keep track of those, which RFID can automatically do that. We also want to count those assets and make sure we know what we have and the counts are correct. And we also want to know if find misplaced assets, things that aren't where they're supposed to be, but we still need to know where those are. So those benefits give you a reduced cost of labor because you don't need line of sight to be able to read the RFID tag, improve accuracy, enhance user experience, and protect ownership. So now that I've mentioned the benefits of the RAIN RFID, I'll turn it over to Archit from RFID for You, and he'll actually show you how to use the RAIN RFID, and we'll also show you some use cases as well. All yours, Archit.
Thanks, Paul. And let me just go ahead and bring up some fun things to walk through everyone today. Hello, everyone. My name is Archit from RFID for You, and appreciate everyone's time over here today. I know we've been talking a lot about the technology and some of the benefits, but we're really going to talk about next how we can use it, right? And I think that's where everyone's really excited for. So just a little bit about who we are, what we, how we kind of fill into this ecosystem over here. We're a full solution provider of this technology, right? RAIN RFID. And we've been fortunate to work in a lot of different industries, a lot of different customers over the last 25 years. As a solution provider, we provide all the little bits and pieces of the puzzle. That can include, some of the hardware that can be used to actually do some of the operations, and I'll talk through that components in just a few minutes. I'll also include some of the software that can be used, and we'll be talking about how that software strategy comes into play, right? There's a couple different pieces of the puzzle that make up this full solution, and we're going to be talking about those as well. But as a partner to everyone on this call, what we're doing is we're kind of the boots on the ground. We're the organization that will help you put all these pieces of the puzzle together to provide you with some tangible value when it comes to actually leveraging the technology. Now, I know that everyone had a little bit of an introduction on this technology, right, in the last few minutes, but just talking a little bit more specifically about the components as part of a solution, right? The idea behind this over here is that there's kind of three pieces of the puzzle that make up a full solution. The first piece of this solution, right, and the first kind of piece, and I like to call it a recipe because, if you put the recipe ingredients in together, you're going to end up with something beautiful. And it's a very important step, and we're there to help you make sure that your recipe turns out really well. And the first ingredient, right, is the RFID tags that go onto your assets. The really cool thing is that there's a lot of different options, just depending on the type of assets that you're looking to tag. Over the last, 20 plus years, there's been billions of dollars of R&D that have gone into the industry. And based on that R&D, right, a lot of that research and development has led to off-the-shelf options for RFID tags and labels that virtually can be attached onto almost anything that you're looking to keep track of, right? And real value, the idea is that if there's anything that has any sort of value to your organization, that's where this comes into place. The next step is that when we have these RFID tags and labels that are put onto our assets, right? Think about it this way: there's no battery on them, right? As we discussed. So what we're going to have is we're going to have pieces of infrastructure that can read these RFID tags to provide us with value. So there's different types of RFID devices. The first type is what's known as an RFID handheld. And this RFID handheld over here can basically be used to read in bulk. So if I've got, items that are sitting on a shelf and I want to be able to scan them, you can think about that being like a little wand that you can walk around with. And I'm going to show you a video in just a few moments. But what you can do from this over here is that you can scan in bulk. So, compared to traditional technologies, right? Like barcode technology, or even if you're walking around with a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pen, with RFID, you can scan in bulk, and that can actually be a couple hundred items per second. So that's one of the ways we can use it. It's called a handheld, really powerful. Second option that we can also use is what's known as a fixed reader, right? And a fixed reader, the way that we can put them up into key areas in your facility. The way I like to describe it is, if any of you guys have ever been to Walmart or Target, you might have seen some of those gates that are at the exit ways. Those are more for loss prevention. But instead of that, for asset tracking, we can have similar types of infrastructure devices put up into key areas in your facility. So that way you can basically recognize the presence or lack of presence of assets as they're moving throughout your facility, right? So think about it being like a security person who's always on and always looking to see that, okay, is something happening there? But the idea is that it's all happening autonomously. No one's physically there, just helps you collect the data behind the scenes. And to make all that magic happen, what we have is we got some software that can, put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So we're going to be reading these RFID tags, using this infrastructure, and the software helps you visualize it, helps you report on it, helps you understand what you're collecting so you can make better business decisions. And there's a lot of workflows around that to make that all happen. Now, why should you do this, right? What's the purpose of leveraging this technology? There's so many technologies out there. Some of you guys during the poll mentioned that you're not even tracking your assets. And I hope everyone understands the value of tracking those assets, right? In today's world, there is a need for making sure you have visibility on the items that you're looking for. There's a huge need just as any organization out there for productivity, And that's where this technology comes in, right? And people hate when I say this because it's a little controversial, but RFID doesn't do anything that any other tracking technology doesn't do. It just does it way faster, way more accurately, and at a much smaller price point in the long run. So that's where the magic really happens for all of this kind of coming together, right? So what's happening is that if we're using, this technology for asset tracking, we're able to do things like bulk counting. So most organizations, including in the government, every single year have a process where they have an audit. This audit process usually involves having a list of assets that should be within the organization and involves individuals walking into facilities and auditing them because you want to make sure that these assets that you believe are there are actually there. And many counties, many cities, many organizations, even universities for that matter, spend days of their calendar year doing this process. Think about it, right? If you're crawling under desks looking for little asset tags on desktop computers and you're basically opening up every single item, that reduces it with this technology because you don't require line of sight, right? What you have the ability to do is you can scan wirelessly, you don't have to have contact, and just reduces those tedious workflows. So for many organizations that have been leveraging the technology, maybe in today's world before using it, they were counting, they were counting maybe once a year. And now they can do it a lot more often. And what that allows you to do, right? What value that provides is it allows you to reduce the efforts to be able to, keep track of these assets, right? This can lead to beneficial things like improve asset visibility, being able to have a stronger idea where assets are. A lot of analytics come behind this as well, behind the scenes, because you can understand which assets are being used, which ones are not being used. So that way, next year, when you're asking for money to buy things, you can go back and say, hey, this specific asset was used so many times this year, and this is what we needed. Or maybe these things that we bought a couple of years ago, because of new ways of doing things, we may not need anymore. So we shouldn't be putting money towards these type of assets. So it really helps you unlock not only the tracking behind it, but also the management of your assets. So it's just kind of like a catalyst, right, for being able to better manage your assets across your organization. So there's several use cases, that people can leverage the technology for, right? Assets, the cool thing about it is it doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, what you do, you have some sort of assets as part of your day-to-day, processes, right? And what I've outlined over here is just a couple of low-hanging fruits just for every organization to kind of take and evaluate to see, well, I probably have one or more of these groups of assets. How do I go back and leverage RFID for that, right? And I've put a couple of different use cases over here. The first one being IT asset tracking. And the value behind this, right, is for IT asset tracking is that most IT assets are not cheap. They do cost several $100s, in some cases, thousands of dollars for many organizations. And the biggest, challenge with IT asset tracking in a traditional world is it's a process where it's usually given for a longer period of time to an individual. So there's a chain of custody, right? And the challenge with that is that when it comes to just a long-term world, you have a process which you're usually walking into buildings and facilities to manage and monitor these IT assets, as well as going back and auditing them. Think about things like server rooms. Think about, general offices where you might have high-value IT assets, video systems, projectors. You might have, you might have monitors that are set up across a facility. And, because there's some value on it and because of the financials involved with it, most organizations are auditing it. So you can use that value just to be able to count it. And just to give you a rough order of magnitude, right? The RFID labels that are used in IT asset tracking, in many cases in volume are less than $1 a piece, right? I don't like to get into commercials, but just to give you an idea, right? So if you've got something that's a couple $1,000s and you're spending less than $1 a piece tracking it, real game changer when it comes to the tracking and management of that asset. Some other really hot use cases that are really applicable to a lot of other organizations. Returnable assets are a big one. A lot of organizations have assets that go to and from. A great example of this, is a lot of counties and cities and organizations have voting equipment. So, what happens is that elections happen, a lot of these assets get checked out for an event. They have to be used, and it's a very labor intensive process to be able to keep track of where these assets are in the cycle. So RFID is a great fit for that. You pull out your RFID handheld, scan the assets, what's been checked out, what's been checked back in. Cuts that effort from many hours to just a couple minutes. Huge game changer. So voting equipment's one. Another really great use case for returnable assets are oftentimes people borrow things across organizations to get things done, right? And these are short-term rentals. There might be events that are happening across the organization. There might be even, things from a maintenance standpoint where individuals are borrowing assets to get a specific job done. And again, there's a lot, not only theft, but there's a lot of loss that happens just because of lack of traceability, right? And if you're doing this manually, maybe you have a clipboard where someone writes down that I went into this room and checked out this item, but it's a very time-consuming process, and it's also very easy for someone to skip that process. There's no kind of checks and balances. So RFID can be used as a great option for that as well. A couple of other great use cases include things like yard management, where you can use RFID for basically keeping track of assets on a yard. Tool tracking is another one. Tools are very critical for businesses, right? It's only when you need that tool that you go looking for it. And when you go looking for it and you don't have it, trust me, that trip to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, where you're running around because you need something because of an emergency, is usually not the best use of time. So what we've seen is tools are, very critical for a lot of organizations. They get used, and when they get used, it's a very time sensitive matter. So knowing where they are at all times is very critical. Other things that are oftentimes, depending on how your organization is running, sometimes manufacturing assets. So sometimes you might have some fixed assets that are sitting long term. We even have folks putting this on furniture, right? And as crazy as it sounds, right, some of these furniture pieces are expensive. And if you have these furniture going in and out and you're auditing them every year, if you've got a chair, in some cases that might be a couple $100. Spending a couple cents by putting an RFID label on it isn't going to be very problematic, because it can really save you time when it comes to keeping track of where these items are. Another big one is lab equipment. A lot of local government organizations also have a lot of R&D that they do, right? And they have labs, they have initiatives, and based on those labs, the research that they're doing, they might have equipment that they want to put RFID on because of just the track and trace of that equipment. Much of this equipment might be purchased on grants. So when you have grants, you want to make sure that you can prove that you still have those specific assets. A lot of use cases, a lot of applications, these are just a handful of options, right? And if you look at, your organization, you might have something that's more unique, but anything that has tangible value to you, you might want to put an RFID tag on from a use case standpoint. Now, how do we make this all work, right? We talked about what goes into the solution. We talked about what is actually, some of the low-hanging fruits for the use case. So now I'm going to share with you, right? I gave you kind of the ingredients to that recipe. I'm going to tell you how to do and go through that cooking process. And I'm going to make it as simple as possible for you to really adopt it. So I said 3 pieces of the puzzle, right? One of the pieces of the puzzle is the software. That's where we come in. We've got some really cool options. We've got a very robust enterprise solution where if you've got multiple locations, multiple sites, you can have everything aggregated together. It's being used today by a lot of different organizations in a lot of different, capacities, including in the local government space. We've got a lot of counties that are using it for keeping track of their IT assets, their voting equipment, even keeping track of some of the items that are long-term, just in terms of their general operations. We've got local cities that are using it for their general asset tracking. We even have, universities that are using it for the same exact use case, right? Assets that are being used, things all the way from band equipment, right? Instruments to pieces of equipment that are deployed into classrooms from an education standpoint. So a lot of different assets that are there. We do have a couple different solutions, that can help you get to that large scale project, right? And one of these solutions that we have is a lightweight solution that I'm going to be talking about in just a few moments. Some of our customers, especially in the government standpoint, want to have a solution that is not cloud and wants to be in premise. So we do have a version of our solution that is available for that as well. So we can kind of hit all the levels of there. So we can have a cloud-based solution, which provides a lot of value because you can aggregate all the data together. We've got an in-premise solution, as well as we've got a low-cost solution, which I'm going to talk to you about right now, that can help you start off with a project like this. The low-cost solution, what we've done is it's called Tagmatics AT Lite. And to help you understand the value of this, right? If you're someone who's new to a technology, I can guarantee you don't want to spend a lot of money up front to try it out, right? You want to just understand the value benefits of it. I hope you trust me. I hope you trust everyone that's here, but most people, they want to, check it out for themselves. And we respect that, right? That's something that's important because you want to make sure any technology you adopt is right for you. So there's kind of 3 pieces of my little secret recipe that I'm sharing with you today. The first piece is we've got the software, right? And the software, there's a version of our software that we've condensed and we made it super simple for you to try out, which can be downloaded for free off the app stores. So we've got options for iOS, Android, and Windows. You directly download it onto these devices. Easy for you because that's less IT that has to be involved, right? There's less red tape from IT or anyone in the IT organization to say, yes, we're qualified to use it, because it's simply just installing onto a smartphone, like an iOS or Android device, or onto your computer. So it really reduces that friction just to try it out. The second step that we've done is that what we've done is we've actually reduced the capabilities from an enterprise solution and just stripped it down to make it simple for you to understand. So there's a lot of bells and whistles, but we've kept a lot of the features the same, but just simplify that workflow just so you can understand the value that the technology is provided. And the third thing that we've done is we made it so it's compatible with a wide variety of RFID handhelds so you can understand the value that's out there. So the first step in the secret recipe is just download our software. You can use it for as long as you want, up to 99 assets. And if you're an organization that just wants to use it for a small number of assets, this is a small one-time cost that you can use for leveraging the technology. So we put a lot of capabilities in here. We have things like automated workflows. So I'm going to show you a video of this in just a few moments, but you can do things like inventorying. So you can inventory an area and be able to quickly scan what's out there. There's workflows for things like check in, check out. So if you have assets that are being checked in and checked out from a facility, you can use that to be able to have visibility of where those assets are. A lot of reporting is available, so you can be able to pull reports on this. We put a lot of cool things in here as well, where if you have, let's say, an existing list of assets, I know many of you folks said you have, you're tracking this on Excel. So we have an import tool. So that way you're not going to spend a lot of time bringing this data into the system. It's a one-click import tool. So you just browse your file, bring it in, and that just reduces the effort that's required for you to start using the technology. We've got a lot of other really cool things. We have the ability for you to have custom fields. So we have a lot of out-of-the-box fields, so you can, see things like descriptions, part numbers, asset IDs. Even if you wanted a photograph of the asset, you can see that. But we know that every organization is different. So if you want to see details as you're scanning that are relevant to you, or you want to keep track of additional things, you can put custom fields in there. And the idea is, the strategy that I'm sharing with you is, if you like the solution, you want to keep it low cost, and you just have a single device that you want to use, you can continue to use our lightweight solution, Tagmatics AT Lite. However, if you want to use our enterprise solution, which allows you to have multiple devices being used at the same time, there's a one-click migration. So you can kind of try it out for free, see the benefits, and then migrate over to our enterprise solution with a one click and start adding on more pieces of infrastructure, more RFID devices. So the first piece of the secret recipe, right? The software. Second piece of the secret recipe is the RFID handhelds that can be used as part of the play. Really cool thing for someone like yourself is that we support a wide variety of RFID handheld options. And what value that provides to you is that you have a lot of options in terms of what device is right? There's a lot of different form factors, some that can be a little bit more portable, some that have like a built-in screen, some that might have the capability for you to do things like have like a dedicated device that sits on top. So a lot of different options. Some are, designed to be read at a further distance because they've got a little bit of a larger antenna on the front of it. So as for someone like yourself that is a adopter of the technology, what value that this provides to you is you can kind of pick and choose what's right for you. If you don't know, we'll help you. We'll help you find a really good option that can be used to kind of start off a project like this and scale up. And this RFID handheld device, this is going to be your device that can help scan. So think about it being like a barcode scanner, but on steroids, right? Because it can scan lots of items really quickly, and you're going to see a video of this in just a second right over here. And the third piece of the puzzle is the RFID labels that are available. So what we've done is that we've taken, our partners from before us, including, folks like Impinj and Hana, and we've taken their technology and put them into ready to ship RFID labels and tags. And what these have is that they have the ability for you to easily be able to attach them onto your assets, right? So we've got some options that are ready to ship that are pre-printed, pre-encoded. So they've got like a barcode on there. They've got a human readable number on there. Really simplifies it for you because the same number that's on the chip can be printed physically on the outside of the label and in the barcode. So you have all the options in the same form factor, but there's an electronic chip on the inside, right? So when you're starting and off and like commissioning your asset, which is a step of just, bringing that asset to life, you can easily scan the 2D barcode. You can see the human readable on there just to make it a very easy process to bring that asset to life. And if you wanted to, right, and you had a need, we even have the ability to provide these to you custom printed and encoded. So let's say you wanted like a logo for your organization, or you wanted some details that are relevant for you, you have the ability to do that. Just like if you might have like a regular barcode asset tag, but this one has an RFID chip on the inside that allows you to do all the magic that we've shared over here. So real quick, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to show a very brief video on how this all kind of comes together. So the video I'm going to show you over here, and I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing my screen for just a second and bring up a very brief video on just how this all comes together, is the ability for you to do an inventory, right? And this inventory process that we have over here allows you to essentially be able to go ahead and scan all your assets very quickly. So to provide a little bit of context before I play the video, there's no audio, so don't freak out if you don't hear anything. I'm going to be talking over it. What you're going to see is that my colleague has a storage cabinet filled with a variety of assets. And if she was to go back and try to scan this, it would take her a lot of time, right? And manually. But with RFID, what you're going to see is she can wave her RFID handheld around like a magic wand. And what it's going to do for her is it's going to allow her to see that, okay, here's what you're expecting, here's what's matched, here's what's missing, and here's what's misplaced. So you can kind of see she's waving that RFID handheld, boom, 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 couple of seconds, and she's going to know, oh, here's what's matched, here's what's missing. And then she goes into those details of those tabs. What you're able to kind of see over here is the details of those ones are, here's what I got, here's what I'm missing, here's what's in the wrong place. So you can do this workflow of doing this inventory as often as you want to reduce the effort to be able to keep track of some of these assets, right? Really simplifies the journey, cuts down, that time. You saw that cabinet was filled with items. If you were to pick up each item, find the barcode on there, or manually check the item, it would take you, in many cases, an hour plus, even if you had like 50 so items, because you got to go one by one. With RFID, couple of seconds, bam, she's done. She knows exactly what she's doing. And you're able to go ahead and just simplify that journey, right? So you can do this in cabinets, backup trucks. You can do this in key areas of your organization. You can use the same scanning process to do a check in, check out. So you can have a chain of custody of who has what asset. You can use it to transfer items from one location to the other. So if you're doing things like equipment that's being moved from one spot to the other, rather than going one by one and recording it, so wave your RFID handheld around like a magic wand and pick it up. It's all being done wirelessly by using that magic RFID label that's being put onto our assets. So really simplifies that journey for it. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of options are there. So depending on the type of asset that you have, depending on the durability that you need, right? If you need something that's going to be outdoors, if you're going to need something that's going on a laptop versus like a plastic container, if you need something that's going to be a small little tool, we've got options as an industry for almost anything that you can think of that's been, developed over the last few years. So you just kind of have a list of assets. We'll work with you to identify what are going to be some really good label options and tag options for those assets, and you're good to go. The next, thing I just want to bring up real quick over here is that some folks want to know, if I want to stick with the light solution, how does it work, right? So it's free to download, and we've got a few different editions. If you're interested in having the light solution being used as kind of your go-to solution, So a couple different packages. We do also have an enterprise solution. So if you're looking at expanding this out and having it with multiple devices, you do have that capability as well. One of the final pieces of information that I want to leave off with for everyone over here today is that when it comes to adopting any technology, right? Any technology, doesn't matter if it's RFID, it doesn't matter if it's a battery system or anything of that, also of that sort. There is a learning curve. If anyone's telling you anything otherwise, they're lying to you, right? Anything that's new to you, you're gonna have to learn, right? It doesn't matter if you're picking up a baseball bat and trying to learn how to play baseball. You have to learn the techniques, you have to learn what's going to work well for you. And that takes time, right? And we're going to be there to support you on that journey. But one thing that's very unique and innovative that we've done is to make sure that this initiative is a success, right? Even if you download our free software and start using the technology, get your hands on an RFID handheld, which you can purchase from our online store if you're interested as well, and get some sample RFID tags from our website, it's a pretty low cost way to get started. But to make sure that it's a real success, what we've done is that we've actually created an extensive knowledge base on our product website over here. It's called tagmaticsatlight.com. There is no commercials on here. It's all basically just technical know-how on how to use the technology, best practices, how to set things up. If something's not working, how do you fix it? And if you need any assistance, right, there's actually the ability for you to create a ticket directly with our team on there, because we want to make sure that this step in your project is a success. We want to set you up for success. So we put a lot of resources behind it to help make sure that this early step is going to work out well for your organization. So you can check out this over here. If you're interested, you can even download the software today. It's a lot more helpful if you have the RFID handheld and the labels to be able to use it. And again, those can be downloaded from our website, purchased from our website as well. But if you need any assistance, right, feel free to reach out to us. Again, company name's RFID for you, so you can go to our website, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help with selection of which tags, talk to you about your use case to make sure that if you are evaluating using this technology and it's working really well, right? It's working well for a lot of organizations. We'll help you evaluate it and make sure that you have all the pieces of the puzzle to put it together. So I went through a lot, and the team over here went through a lot. So what we're going to do over here is we're going to go back up and open up the floor for questions. So I'm going to invite the rest of our team over here to come back, and I'm going to stop my screen share and allow the rest of the folks to come up over here to help us answer all of our questions with our session today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Archit. So we do have a couple of questions, and I'm going to combine a few into some general topics that I think everybody can talk to. So the one of them, and this one will go to you, Paul, is about the quality and performance. So we mentioned that it was fast and easy, but how does tag design matter?
Yeah, the tag design is critical depending on number one, what you're actually trying to read. And then second is what you want that distance to be, because the RFID technology, that's another one of the neat things about it, is you can design it to read close, or you can design it to read really far away. So for example, if you have a pallet of goods going through a dock door, you might need it to read 30 feet. But for example, we all have the credit cards with RFID chips now that you don't want it to read 30 feet or everybody will steal your information. So real quick, that's kind of those are the important things as well.
Good deal. And important to think about in your solution.
Yes, for sure.
Joe, about the tag. So how much memory can a tag hold, and what are the types of data that can be held on a tag?
Yeah, well, before I get to that, I was just going to add to Paul too, like even at the IC level, what we'll do from a tag performance perspective is we built in the capability for the IC to actually sense the environment that it's operating in, and then make some adjustments to be able to improve the performance to the maximum level, working alongside the tag design. So there's a lot of features that are built into the technology itself to really improve the overall performance of the system. So, and then from a memory perspective, we do have some small memory products and then also some large memory. Anything from a barcode or EPC type of basic label up to, you could do a hard tag, durable tag with as many as 496 bits of information. So you could actually encode location, timing, date and time stamp, maintenance logs. There's a lot more information where you could add in and keep track of when you're going back and reading those tags with large memory.
Good deal. And Archit, you talked about Tagmatics and bringing that data into the cloud. Anything to add there in terms of memory and types of data?
Definitely. So it really just depends on your organization, right? For most organizations, the most cost-effective way to make this happen is that because every RFID tag is unique, what we have the ability to do is you can almost access as a reference, right? And any other data that you want to see in regards to that assets can be looked up using that value. So when it comes to asset tracking, what most folks do is that RFID tag serves as almost like a license plate, right? Think about it being like the license plate on your car. And if you have that license plate information, you can look up every other piece of information about that. So that's where most folks like to, leverage it. Most cost-effective way, most easiest way to kind of deploy the technology. And then the sky's the limit in terms of all the data that you want to share, be able to kind of look up, be able to visualize as you're using the technology.
Great. Here's one from the field for Archit. Is there software or communications tech fusion of RFID available for use with vulnerable and missing children and adults? Great question. Has anybody heard of that use case?
Yeah, definitely. So the way that this works, right, when it comes to tracking, this specific technology, what we call UHF or RAIN RFID, has the power source when it has an RFID reader within its proximity, right? And that proximity, it depends on the size of the RFID tag that you're using. In many cases, it might be 10, 15 feet. There's some long range options where you can go up to 30, 40, 50 feet. Because of that, though, it's usually not used for tracking, as you would imagine, like a GPS technology, right? It's more meant for like within the four walls, or it's meant for assets that are, or items that are basically moving between systems. So if you are looking at tracking, things, whether that be people or whether that be individual items that you need more real-time visibility on, other technologies might be a little bit better suited. The value of using this technology is that there is no battery, which means that you can put it on a lot more items and it keeps it very cost effective. Because for most use cases, you're spending less than $1 a piece, or even in some cases, pennies to put it on to each individual item. So it really unlocks a whole amount of opportunities. And that's where, the use cases really are focused on for this specific technology.
Great. Here's another one from the field. When you provide pre-printed, pre-encoded tags for asset tracking, this one I think will go to Joe or Paul. Which numbering system standard do you use? So Joe?
I'd say you pick. That would be my answer. There's obviously there's some numbering schemas that are kind of standard within the retail industries. Some industries use different types of numbering schemes, but you really have a ton of options. The data is wide open to be able to encode whatever numbering schema you'd like to. Archit, you might want to add a little bit to that too, because you guys are doing a lot of that in the field.
Other industries, yeah. Archit?
Other industries.
Yeah, definitely. So there's, the cool thing about standards is that there's a lot of options for you to choose from, right? So the industry has done a good job of creating different ways for you to be able to choose how you want that data on your RFID tags. Depending on the size of your organization, depending on, your ease of deployment, some of the things that you have the ability to use is you can leverage a running sequence number. There are also options out there where if you wanted to be able to use industry standards, there are some industry standards out there where you can actually choose the contents on those RFID labels, so that way you can avoid, conflicts if you have assets that are going in and out of your facility and you want to make sure that duplicates don't happen, just to make sure that it truly is unique. Because the way that the technology works is it only works well if it's RFID tag unique by nature. So you kind of have, there's certain industries have actually created different standards as well, depending on the subgroup of industries. So the best way to answer that is we'll usually sit down with you, understand, your organization, understand what use cases you're going after. And then based on that, also look at budget, look at ease of deployment, and basically come up with the strategy that might be best for your organization.
Great. I think that dovetails into a couple of other questions that came in about what types of things can you tag? So specialty item tagging, and can you put RFID on tools that are used in the field? So Paul, why don't you answer this question?
Yeah, like we talked earlier, I mean, you basically are designing the tag based off of the specific use case. There may be one already available if that use case has already been done, but if there's a tool that nobody's been tagging yet, we would look at that. We would design a tag specifically for that, depending on what your use case is. And if it's a handheld tool, then yeah, we would make it so it would read the right distance to that tool. Essentially. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that is the last question that we had that came in through the Q&A poll. Actually, sorry, here's another one that just popped in. Archit, would RFID for you and you be interested in talking further about public safety use for interacting and recognizing vulnerable disabled individuals? We can capture this name. Sounds like that Dennis here would like to brainstorm a little bit about some applications. So Dennis will make sure that Archit has your contact information through your registration, and sounds like that could be some nice, interesting innovation that happens there. I think what we talked about in the back room a little bit as things were going on was that if you can tag it and you can read it and see it in your systems, then you're going to have a lot more information available to you in how you manage your operations. So we hope that you learned a lot today. Any of the speakers want to add anything else?
No, just thank
No.
you everybody for taking the time. It was really great.
For sure.
Awesome. All right. So that kind of wraps things up for us today. What I want to do is to make sure you guys know that we have our next session that is coming June 13th. It will be the basics of RFID in local government. This will be much more in-depth about how RAIN RFID deployments are set up and the importance of the things that we talked about today in terms of performance and the right tag selection, the right connection. So join us on June 13th with our partner Atlas RFID Solutions for RFID, the basics of RFID in local government. So my sincere thanks to Paul, Joe, and Archit for today's session. We appreciate everybody who joined us today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.